All right. Good morning, everybody. Today is Wednesday, July 9th, 2014. And this is Before the First Cup of Jules on UCY.TV. Hey, how's everybody doing this morning? I am back. One thing I gotta double check here really quick. I am using a different Skype this morning. And, looks like all my settings are okay. I just needed to make sure I wasn't blowing out anybody's eardrums. So, I'm back. Took a few days off and ran to the hills. It was pleasant. I don't know. Had a lot of adventure, but not in a fun way. Had a couple catastrophes, as always. And you know how it is, but we survived. Nobody lost a finger. Nobody got a car totaled, so it's all good. I hope everyone had a great holiday weekend. It was really kind of some odd weather here. We were in the 70s for the whole weekend. And typically this time of year is when New York is getting, this is the bread and butter of summer right now. So 70 degrees is kind of wicked, but I actually thought it was pleasant. 90 degrees is no fun for me. And but late at night it actually got down to the 40s. So it was different. I guess it's been that way a few times before, but it definitely was very different from traditionally what I remember for 4th of July week. So anyway, I don't know if you guys are paying attention. I know I wasn't. At least I tried not to. One of the things I want to do right now, if you give me a second, is we're going to find a cup. I was late. Yeah, I set an alarm this morning for 8:40. Thinking, all right, that's going to give me like 20 whole minutes to get up and be functional before I had to come on here for the show. And I ended up with a door opening up going, your show's in 2 minutes. I hate that. So I got my coffee, came down here, and I'm like, damn, I left my smokes upstairs. So I just made it by the skin of my teeth, as always. So, let's see. Today feels like a Monday, does it not? I wish I had Wednesdays suck just like Mondays do. I don't think I do, though. Oh, damn. See, it's hard to talk and look at cups at the same time. So, I'm just going to have to randomly pick something, I guess. And just make sure. I think I'm going to... Should I grab the one that says, you're the tits? That's kind of funny. I don't know, though. People might not find as much amusement in it as I do. Oh, damn it. All right, well, here. I'm just going to grab any of these. Oh, here, it's Wicked... Hold on 1 second. This is Wicked Weasel Wednesday. So I guess that's what we're going to have to call the show today. So live now at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific on UCY.TV before the first cup with Jules on Wicked Weasel Wednesday. Don't ask me what a wicked weasel is, but it sounds funny. TV / and what is my page? UCY.TV / BTFC. There you go. Before the first cup. It's done. Wicked Weasel Wednesday. All right. We are going to travel some paths today. I don't know. All kinds of stuff going on. I don't really want to pay attention to Israel, just so you know. I don't know. I I have some opinions about Israel. And one of the opinions that I have is like they are the spoiled stepchild. I notice that every time something else is ramping up and Bibi decides that he needs some attention, he stirs up his own skirmish to get himself attention. Now this newest melee is no different than what we've seen before in the past, except that it's almost as if this time around he decided to pull out all the stops. You know, is this the time? Is this the one? Did they tell him, Bibi, your waiting is over. I know you're like a little yappy foofy dog. Always nibbling on somebody's ankles. We're going to take off your leash and go sick 'em now, boy. I don't know. I saw yesterday that they were planning on, I don't know if I said this, I'm really tired. They were planning on releasing ground troops. I think they were calling up reserves, but it was a large number. It was like 4,000. And, you know, it's not like this battle with the Gaza and Hamas just started. And it's not like Israel doesn't torment those poor people. And I saw that there were, and like I said, I'm not going to talk about this because I just got back yesterday afternoon and I just was posting news, so I haven't looked enough into this really to even be talking about it, honestly. But let's just say in my cursory observation, these are the things that I've seen. I saw that Gaza has been bombing the crap out of them, but it is in return retaliation for them bombing the crap out of the Gaza Strip. Hold on. We're going to go. I know I posted a whole bunch of stuff on JJ's page. 130 rockets fired into Israel, 70 of them hit. And what's interesting is I thought that we sold or gave Israel that Iron Dome shield protection. If 130 were fired and 70 hit, that's just a little less than 50%. I'd be calling bullshit on whoever sold you the Iron Shield because, or Missile Dome, or what? Yeah, Iron Dome. It doesn't sound to me like it's working too well. Hold on 1 second. I did have a video graphic. I want to see if there's any sound to this, but I had to pull my headphones because my other ones are still locked. You know what we'll do? They're locked. They're packed. Hold on. I am discombobulated. On this Skype, I only have 4 people as contacts, and one happens to be me. All right. Here, let's see.
70 kilometers, it's designed to perform in all.
Oh, I guess it does. All right, hold on. We'll back it up. So this is a video graphic for this Israeli Iron Dome that apparently only works about 50% of the time. So maybe there'll be a fire sale on these soon. Israel's Iron Dome, it says.
The Iron Dome anti-missile shield's a defense system used to counter short-range rocket attacks. Capable of intercepting missiles from between 4 and 70 kilometers, it's designed to perform in all weather conditions. The first Iron Dome battery was installed in March 2011 near the southern Israeli city of Beersheba, some 40 kilometers from the Gaza Strip. Several others have since been deployed in the south of the country to combat rocket fire from the Palestinian territory. Military experts say a total of 13 are needed to completely defend Israel from short-range attacks. Enemy artillery fired from within the 70-kilometer radius is detected by the Iron Dome's mobile tracking radar. The missile type is identified, its path monitored, and the data sent to a weapon management and control unit which calculates the likely point of impact. If the missile's heading towards a populated or built-up area, it decides to intercept. The incoming targets are detonated in mid-flight and within a matter of seconds by the system's missile firing unit. The Israeli army says 75 to 90% of attempted interceptions are successful at an estimated cost of $50,000 a time.
75 to 90% interceptions are successful at a cost of $50,000 an interception? Is that what she said? Hold on. I think she did. Let's see.
85 to 90% of attempted interceptions are successful at an estimated cost of $50,000 a time.
Wow! $50,000 in interception. So what was this? Let me scroll back. 130 rockets fired into Israel, 70 hit. So that means that they made 60 interceptions at $50,000 a piece. Now, I don't know this for certain, but what do you want to bet that somehow, somewhere, we, you, me, the taxpayer, are probably footing that bill somehow? $50,000 in interception. That's sick, and I bet we even paid for the Iron Shield.
Meanwhile, air raid sirens spark panic in Tel Aviv as Palestinians fire more rockets into Israel in retaliation for the deadly Israeli airstrikes on the Gaza Strip. Now, the Israeli military says 130 rockets were fired into Israel. According to Israeli media, over 70 rockets hit Israel. At least 9 people are said to have been injured. Reports say the US-funded Iron Dome missile system has managed to intercept one rocket bound for Tel Aviv. Sirens were heard in a number of other Israeli towns and cities, including Beersheba, Ashkelon, Ashdod, Ofakim, Ramat, and Eshkol. Meanwhile, Hamas's military wing, the Al-Qassam Brigade, says it has attacked 2 Israeli military bases, including the Zikim training base near Ashkelon, where Israeli military says they've injured 4 Hamas forces.
So do I really care about this? No, I don't. Do I care about Israel? No, I don't. Do I care about Hamas and Palestine? Yeah, actually, I feel kind of bad for those people. Are they without any type of blame? Well, you know, I mean, they do get tortured by Israel frequently. You know, eventually even the most docile individual, when they've had a finger poked at them long enough, turns around, finally sees red and beats the shit out of the bully. I know a lot of this was over. There were actually 2 cases. And you know what? Like I said, I've been out. I was gone since Thursday. But there was a teenager. He was a Palestinian American. There were 2 of them. There was one that was found dead. And then there was one that had the crap beaten out of him. And I know they're not the same kid. Because I was really confused as to if it was the same kid. But they're not the same kid. But I think whoever... Both of those cases actually caused some unrest, which then escalated. The 3 teens were missing. They were Israeli teens. Yeah, it actually were the missing Israeli teens. That's what they said, at least first. Then you find out that one was a Palestinian American, and they were missing, and the bodies were found in Palestine. Now somebody confessed. There were a bunch of people that confessed to it, and now they're bombing the crap out of Palestine or Lebanon, whatever it is over there. But now Israel is lighting the fuse. Does everybody see that? That's, that doesn't matter who it is, and it doesn't matter why. Israel's lighting the fuse. Now, how far Israel's going to go, I've seen them do this before. They have done this before. It's not like Israel is a peaceful nation. Granted, they sit in the middle of a hotbed of shit that we've stirred up over there. And we financed them with their Iron Domes at $50,000 an interception. I cannot believe that price. And amid everything else that's touching off, ISIS, I mean, honestly, running away for, let's see, I left Thursday. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. 6 days, I did my absolute best to not pay attention at all. I think I should get a gold star for that. And so I'm going to stop now because I don't want to talk about the Middle East anymore. I really don't. Though, here's something else I saw. So we did look at ISIS. We did look at like all the crap that's going on over there. We saw something last week that had verified everything that I'd been saying, every single one, about how we trained the militants and sent them into Syria to go fight against Assad, and armed the militants. And those are the exact same militants who then spilled over the border into Iraq and declared themselves as being ISIS and the saviors of the Muslim world as they put their flag in the ground and claim that the Almighty has returned. That's kind of disturbing, too. Hold on here 1 second. I got to turn off my sounds, because otherwise I'm going to get a blink noise. So I see this other headline. It says militants in Syria. So remember, these are the same militants that are in Iraq, except that the militants that are in Syria are the ones that are supposedly doing our bidding for taking out Assad. So the militants in Syria received a second batch of U.S.-made, and I don't know what TOW is, TOW, anti-tank missiles. We are giving ISIS U.S.-made anti-tank missiles that obviously we paid for. What on earth is going on? People, as they're shutting off water to half of Detroit, as family members and friends around the country had their homes foreclosed, as Nana and Grandpa are going without their medication because they can't afford the Tier 1 drug with no generic equivalent that their doctor wants them to take, we are spending $50,000. I know we had something. I know we are footing some of that bill for that Iron Shield. $50,000 in interception and sending anti-tank missiles to the rebels in Syria. It just is absolutely ridiculous. Why are we allowing this to happen? Why? Explain that to me. They still say we need to fire them all. And you know, I hear people on air talking silly shit everywhere. People are so angry. You know what? There's no need to get angry. Get even. Hasn't anyone ever worked in corporate America before? Hasn't anyone ever been in management before? You don't need to get angry. Get cold. You know what? To fire somebody, you got to be cold. I could turn it off and be really cold. So, you want me to go fire him? All I need is a list of all the requirements of the job that they did not fulfill. That's it. We write them pink slips, you're gone. I don't want to be paying for their asses if they're not pulling their weight. And then we do what we talked about a whole bunch of times. Let's have a national lottery. You know, there's lots of people that I'm certain would love to go represent their region and their country, to try and fix things, to actually go and read bills, to make some intelligent laws to undo some of the idiocy. And you know what, Mr. Prez? You're the first one that needs to be fired. As well as your criminal head of the Department of Justice. You know, I got to tell you, for like people that I know who we still don't see eye to eye on some political things, criminal Attorney General Eric Holder is something that we all agree upon. He's got to go. He has got to go. Every time I see that shit-eating grin on his face, I'm like, man, he needs to be a dartboard. But, you know, why are we allowing these people? And I mean, there doesn't need to be any type of, you know, people are talking about doing all kinds of bad things. There doesn't need to be any of that. You are fired. Cut off the money. That's it. No more paycheck. I don't know. You want to come work for free? Sure. You can come in every single day. Just that Congressman, that $107,000 a year, that weekly check, is not going to show up in your checking account. And when you go to get your Class A health care, guess what? You are going to get a full bill. And you're going to pay full price for months because you don't have health insurance anymore on the taxpayer dime. Simple. So what we got to do is pinpoint who is paying all those checks. Who is it? Who's cutting the checks for all the paychecks? Like human resources. Who is human resources for the United States government? And you know, that's something that I have not thought about yet. That is the entity we need to infiltrate. Turn off the printing presses. And I don't think it's the Fed. The Fed isn't paying the paychecks, right? The Fed's the bank lending out the money. But there's got to be an agency. And you know, I haven't even checked chat. So tell you what, guys, give me 1 second. Let me hang up my Skype. And then we'll open a chat. Hey, my sinus infection is a little bit better. I actually feel much better than I have. I finally decided to... There we go. I finally decided to try to medicate myself and started snorting silver up my nose. So I don't know. A few people are like, oh, that's metal. Yeah, it is metal, but the silver did kill some of the infection, too. All right, there we go. It helped. It helped a lot. And I'm not bumping into walls. All right, so Mr. Jimmy Funky says it's the U.S. Treasury that is paying the paychecks. So how do we get in there? How do we get in the Treasury and start cracking heads? Not in a bad way. I just want to maybe take the person who's rubber stamping the checks, put them in a chair, in a plexiglass room, and make them answer some questions with a bright spotlight in their eyes. Ha. Yes, good morning, Blood. Good morning, Gypsy. Good morning, Gringo. Good morning, Mr. Jimmy Funky. I see everybody. Yeah, I'm a slow mover today, too, so don't feel too bad. Okay. So, I don't know. Do I really want to harp on this? I really don't. But here, actually, this is the one thing. So I'm going to get back here now, and let me get back to Skype. I want to play this clip about the Syrian rebels, ISIS, who's not ISIS. Wait, there is FKA, ISIS, AKA, ISIL. Right, they got rid of the Levant and now have declared themselves, what the hell did he say he was? Caliphate? Meaning that this new dude, and I think there's some clips on that too. This new dude is actually the second coming of Allah? Is that what that means? First time I've had a caliphate since the Ottoman Empire. I don't know. It seems to me like we probably cut some deals and we're like, guys, tell you what, you do this shit for us, we are going to set you up your own nation. Now, here's the one thing I do understand. All of this, right? We got all these jihadis running around. But all of this fighting in all these regions and these murders, and as they're going into each country and slaughtering people, it's all over religious beliefs. Again. The most bloodshed ever in the history of mankind has all been over the belief in some mythical creature that lives in the sky with omnipotent powers that will punish you if you're bad. And will send you to heaven with 30 Vestal Virgins if you're good. Isn't there a little bit of irony there? And this is actually, had I stayed in college, that's what I was going to do my PhD on, is how ridiculous it is that throughout history, the claiming of having God behind you to show you the light has actually caused the most death and destruction for all of humanity than anything else combined. All in the name of God, let's kill people. That really bothers me a lot, which is why I've always called bullshit on religion. You know, to me, religion is more of a, I don't know, it's a feel-good. I love nature. I love little animals, especially little fuzzy ones that are injured and need to be recovered, you know? I always have taken in the little hurt underdog and made it better. Or the land that, you know, has been completely decimated that we need to bring back to its former glory and plant stuff on and make it peaceful. You know, that is what's important to me. Connecting with what makes us human, not connecting with some made-up freaking being that is supposed to be scaring us into submission. I mean, anyone who falls for it, and I'm just saying, like, look across the board. If you just back up the truck and take that 10,000-foot view, you got to take the 10,000-foot view. You can't be at, like, the 10-foot view. Because at the 10-foot view, you're controlled easily. 10,000-foot view, you're godlike. You're looking down on everything from the outside, like you're looking at a fishbowl, and it's easier to see that way. At a 10,000-foot view, you see all of us running around like idiots with different ideas, fighting and killing each other because my idea is better than your idea, and my supreme, omniscient, omnipotent God is better than your omniscient, omnipotent God, and for that I'm going to take my sword and behead you. How's that? What is that all about? Oh, wait. You know, and I mean, it's not just the Muslims. It's the Christians and the Jews. Hey, look at what the hell's going on over in Israel. Let's get out our iron shield and kill people in the name of the Jews. That's just disgusting. And we don't care. Women, children, Nana, we don't care. Kill them all because you live in that country or that country. I don't care that you didn't wrong me. I don't care that you never did anything to me. You're one of them. You know, when I see shit like this, you know, this whole thing that's going on in the Middle East now, like I was saying with this caliphate, this is all about, theirs is about Sharia law. So they don't care what kind of Muslim you are. The Sunnis, who tend to be a little more progressive, who look a little more modern as opposed to the traditionalists, are going to be slaughtered by these guys if they come through. You either conform or you die. I don't know. when I look at all this and I look at how easily we are manipulated and divided and conquered, I really start to think that we're stupid. We really are stupid. We get tied up in the newest, shiny object that's dangled in front of us, and then we're told what to believe. And whether it be religion, whether it be news, whether it be politics, our emotions are manipulated so easily. And now, and we haven't done any of this DARPA tech in a while, but if anybody's been on my BTFC page for special Mr. SLC Mike, I did embed my dystopian news feed from my Before the First Cup page below the chat room. So that's where I keep all my newest DARPA mind control news. So there are quite a few stories down there. But manipulation of our emotions and of our actions is something that's been going on for a long time. And as FOIA requests are exercised, and I mean, who knows how much longer they're even going to honor those. But as long as these new FOIA requests are coming out, like almost every day or two, I do see news stories with proof showing that there have been all these PSYOP operations going on over the last 40 years. And for any of my friends and family that are out there, and I got to tell you, I was all proud of them. Like, hey, they finally got it. Hey, they finally said Jules isn't crazy. Well, they waffle. They must have been all sitting and drooling in front of Fox News again. And, Fox isn't even bad. What's scary is that the last time I watched Fox, which was a few weeks ago when I was hanging out with my dad, I was surprised that I was agreeing this time with about 80% of what they said. Now, how did that happen? I don't know, but I was. But, I don't know. They get manipulated easily. I don't watch Fox often, so I don't know what they're telling people, but I was just using that as an example. But here, 2 weeks go by, and all those same people I was so proud of a few weeks ago for finally waking up were again pointing at me, going, Jewel, you're whacked out. Now, come on, people. We're not that lost that unless somebody is on you 24/7 reminding you of how we're being psyoped, that they brain wipe you in 2 weeks and take you back to your old state. I've been through this with my dad 10 times, where he'd be with me for a few days and he would so totally get it. And then we'd go our separate ways and I'd see him a few weeks later and it was like he was brain wiped. Like he totally forgot all the stuff we talked about and how he finally saw the light. He's like, Joel, you're right. Oh my God, holy shit. And then he would be back to his same old going, man, I don't know what you're talking about, Jules. They're not doing that. So I don't know. Sorry, I had to hit the mute there for a second. I was sneezing. So I really do think that they are playing some sort of operation on us. And as they touch off all of these skirmishes now, and I know people have been saying for a long time, it's coming, the financial thing, the this, the that, blah, 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 it's coming. What they are touching off right now everywhere is Operation Utmost Absolute Confusion is what I see. Now let's talk about a few things. So I got this whole ISIS, the good guys in Syria, the bad guys in Iraq. We got Israel and Hamas bombing the crap out of each other. Now we got this border thing going on. People, I've talked about this a bunch of times, but I'm going to tell you, I was looking through the news last night, and I really think I'm right. And what's scaring me is that it was that FEMA class I took 7 or 8 years ago where they told us this. The terrorists were going to come across the border dressed as Mexican immigrants with suitcase nukes. Now think about this. Look at what is going on at the border, and look at the number of people that are just spewing across this border. Even if they are not sending some paid CIA agent with a former Russian suitcase nuke to come sneak over the border, they can always say that one came across. They can always blame it on lax security at the border or the immigration crisis. I'm still going to call bullshit on La Raza. You know, I talked about this last week or the week before, and now I'm seeing it in print. I talked about when Obama ran, and I corrected myself in the year because I originally thought it was 2008, but I wasn't doing radio then. It was 2012. He gave a speech to La Raza, was talking all about the path to citizenship. And I know, I listen to Nick and DB, and I know that they live right down on the California-Mexican border, and I know that they have lots of friends from both sides of the border. And I know that they understand the plight of the people there. And I'm not saying, like, let's starve people who want a better life. But on the other hand, there's an absolute 100% agenda going on here. Couple things. One, when Barry talked to La Raza and promised them a path to citizenships for undocumented illegals. Number two, we were looking just recently at how the Department of Defense was scaling way back on recruitment activities. And the reason cited was that we were drawing down troops in all these nations. Now, I don't know what news that they're looking at, but I can absolutely tell you that over the last 3 or 4 years since I've been doing radio, we are in a hell of a lot more skirmishes now than we were in 2012. My first postulation was, well, we got all these DARPA robots coming, maybe that, and the unmanned aerial vehicles. Maybe that's why we're drawing down on the troops. Because now we can have one soldier in a room with his PlayStation freaking joystick killing 50 people at one time. So we don't need 50 soldiers. We only need one for every 50. But then I was reminded of a story that I'd seen quite a while ago, and there was another story that had put out a similar publication talking about renewing again the path to citizenship possibility for an illegal if they join our armed services. And I was like, oh. And like we talked about the other day, if you're here fleeing dictators and drug cartel and you're starving and hungry and you come to a different country and they say, hey, you want to be cannon fodder? We'll feed you, we'll clothe you, you'll get to travel the world. Maybe you'll make it, but when it's all over and done with, you'll be a citizen. I think the majority of them would do it. And hey, it's a win-win. We're not going to have to probably pay those guys any type of pensions or substandard health care. They'll be happy just to get food and clothing. And to call themselves an American, unlike you other bastards out there. All you complainer Americans who don't like it. And you see? So I read something yesterday that there is a congressman or a senator, I don't remember which, in Texas, that is now publicly calling out La Raza and launching an investigation on some hearsay. So granted, I haven't seen anything in writing where they've proven it yet, but he is launching an investigation in that La Raza is encouraging people from South American nations to immigrate here illegally, to flood our borders. Now, wouldn't that be the cat's ass? Especially after Obama in 2012 was kissing their asses saying, we'll give you a path to citizenship. And I believe, if I am not mistaken, he executive ordered that shit. And that's pretty crazy. And I know there's a lot of people down on that border that have lots of friends that are illegals. And I'm not against having friends that are illegals, but I'm going to tell you what. Every single one of us, just about, unless you're a Native American, had family members that came in here from another country a generation or two or three ago. And they all came in the legal way. And they all were fleeing some sort of persecution. So, and I mean, I don't even know how much security is going on. I mean, there's just people pouring over the border. But to cross in here without going through due process and then put your hands up and say, well, now you need to feed and clothe me and be responsible and make me a citizen, I don't agree with. And I know that this is causing a lot of hot issues. But I do my best to walk a straight line. I do my best to stay within the confines of legality. And I know, I mean, probably all of us break 10 laws or more a day, even though we don't know it. But I try really hard to do things by the book, at least. Not always, but I do. 99.999% of the time. And when I am successful at something, when I didn't circumvent the rules that everyone else in the world plays by, when I didn't fuck my friends and family to get ahead, when I didn't have my hand out begging for it to be given to me, I got it through elbow grease and hard work. I gotta tell you, I feel pretty self-satisfied at that point because I did it myself. It's kind of always been my motto. I don't like people helping me with shit. You know, if you're coddled your whole life and everybody does shit for you and gives you shit, then you never appreciate anything. Working hard for it and setting a goal is what makes you a success in life. It's what makes you, in your next progressive project, even better than you were before. So here's my thing. These people just walk over the border. They break the laws. They think now that entitles them to citizenship. Really, I mean, I know, we've heard this argument on both sides. They're like, oh, you know, people from over there work hard, blah, blah, blah. They probably do. But you know what? They could get fat, dumb, and happy just like every other American sitting here as everything's given to them. I just don't believe that setting precedent, as in breaking law, is now law. How is that right? How is, like, let's take a look at criminal. Attorney General Eric Holder, half of what he's done has been breaking the law. How are we all still following the laws if the head law of the land is breaking the law? And now let's allow all these other people to break the law because for them it's okay. And this is really beginning to create many crises. And anyone who's watching all of this has got to be morally confused in some way, shape, or form. You know, depending on your level of awakeness. And I heard some people talking the other day, some alternative hosts going, oh, well, you know, people are angry at this, that, and the other thing, and their anger is misdirected. It shouldn't be directed at the illegals. Well, I mean, I know that they are trying to flee tyranny, but on the other hand, coming here, wouldn't it be easier if they tried to pull some sort of, what do they call it? Political asylum? I mean, if it really is that they have all these warlords down there that they're fleeing, can't they declare a humanitarian crisis and ask for political asylum? Isn't that how it works? Pretty sure it is. And I mean, Fukushima, a lot of those people tried to ask for political asylum and they were turned down. Canada turned them down too, because it was a danger for them to live in their own country. Well, if that's what they're claiming for this border problem, then I would think that it would fall under that. Why are we making this an illegal immigration problem? So anyway, again, another topic I really don't want to talk about because I don't give two fucks. I really don't. Now, what I do see happening, though, is that this is stirring up a lot of hot emotions on both sides of the fence, as evidenced by that one morning that, whoops, I made the mistake of walking into that trap. We had all kinds of hot phone calls. But it is stirring up so much shit that I just saw yesterday, and I bet you, I don't know if it's the same Bundy people, but there are militias and protesters. The militias are in California. No, the protesters are in California blocking more buses of illegals being dumped off. The militias are saying they're going to patrol the border now. I mean, this shit could get ugly really quick. Here's another thing that I see. Really, really, really good topic to divide and conquer. Again, aren't we dumb? Which is why I really don't want to talk. I mean, I know it pisses me off. It really does. Being someone who worked a lot of years, a lot of hours, 80-hour weeks, and I took my lumps and paid a lot of freaking taxes. I don't want to be paying for a Guatemalan kid to be running across the border when there are 30 American kids that don't have health care or food. I mean, I'm sorry, little Guatemalan kid. If I could, I'd take care of everybody, but we can't. Now, if we stop bombing people, we could maybe. I don't know. I get so torn over this. I mean, I feel bad. Like I said, every little hurt, injured animal I always want to take care of, and that includes little Guatemalan kids. But if my tax dollars can only go so far, then there's some realism. And hey, when shit hits the fan, we're also going to have to do the same thing. You take care of your own first. You don't go picking strangers saying, hey, I got food. Come on over here. I don't know you, but here, I'll give you some. And that's how you get yourself killed pretty quickly. That's how you get invaded by marauders. And I think that's what's going on down there. I think that just like the Texas senator or congressman, I don't remember which, who's now accusing La Raza, talking out both sides of their mouth, encouraging all these people to come here. And Barry, who promised La Raza we're going to have some sort of path of citizenship, I think this really is part of the plan to start utmost absolute chaos on the border. So now we got this influx of all these people that we can't handle. We're going to have to put them in some sort of detention-esque center where we can feed and clothe them and whatever. Oh, but what? What? By the way, we're finding swine flu and all kinds of other weird diseases that these people are bringing in that doctors are being told not to talk about. What? More Ebola cases outside of Africa. What? 6 vials of smallpox virus found stuffed in a closet somewhere without any security. What? shit. Guys, I don't know. I say this every time. Like, when these dots start connecting, I hate it because it's like, no, this is not this evil. I really think between what we're seeing in the Middle East and now the chaos that they're trying to set off here, they really are trying to do something. They're trying to destabilize things. Now the militia's over there. We're going to protect our borders. I mean, you got crazies running around with guns now. This isn't good. Not good at all. We need to fire the fuckers in Washington. That's what we got to do. Number one. And then we all need to stand up and start taking care of our own. All right, here. I mentioned the smallpox. This is something that actually just came about yesterday. And it was one that we hadn't heard about yet. So add this to the list of potential pandemics.
The CDC and the FBI are trying to solve a startling mystery this morning. They want to know how 6 vials of smallpox were packed away and forgotten at a government lab outside Washington. A scientist cleaning out an unsecured storage room stumbled upon the deadly pathogens last week. The tubes apparently sat there for decades. Chief Medical Correspondent Dr. John LaPook is with us. Good morning. We know that smallpox is only permitted in 2 labs in the world, the CDC and one in Russia. How could this happen?
Well, an NIH researcher was cleaning out a cold storage room, comes across a cardboard box which has some cotton in the bottom of it, and then he sees some old test tubes there. And some are labeled typhus, influenza, mumps, and then he sees one that's labeled variola, which is the scientific word for smallpox. He contacts the NIH contacts the CDC, they bring in the FBI and the World Health Organization.
And I'm going to stop for a second because we also had that anthrax situation a couple weeks ago where there were 80 CDC employees that were exposed. It was government anthrax, and it was being transported accidentally, not disabled, number one. And number two, it was not supposed to be sent to labs that were not anthrax certified high security. So again, another oops. Now, what are the chances that these are all mistakes? Because I don't think they are. All right, let's listen a little bit more.
You're saying even the White House was informed.
Right, the National Security Council was informed, and the reason is smallpox was supposedly eradicated in 1980. And all of the world's supplies were supposedly destroyed except for in the 2 places that you mentioned. So the question is, how did it end up in this storage room? And that was of great concern.
Mm-hmm. And was anybody exposed?
Nobody was exposed. So what happened was they brought in a big team, security team. They immediately moved it to a secure facility. It was kept there for a while, and then it was brought down under the guidance of the FBI to the Centers for Disease Control. They analyzed it into the wee hours a couple of days ago, and it turned out to be smallpox.
Some workers just a month ago mishandled some samples of anthrax. Now they find smallpox, which is supposed to be gone. Mm-hmm. What is going on?
I think these are 2 separate instances. The anthrax situation was something where the CDC said clearly there was a break in protocol, and they're trying to deal with this and make sure it never happens again. This is a one-off, and the CDC, one of the spokespersons said to me, this is like finding a Babe Ruth card in your attic. I mean,
really? They think it's a one-off?
They think it's a one-off, but they are saying they are directing all their laboratories to take inventory, and also they are encouraging all laboratories everywhere in the United States to do a very close inventory and make sure there's nothing hiding behind some wall or a closet.
Smallpox could be considered a bioterrorism threat.
Yes.
Thank you.
Dr. LaPook, thank you very much.
Let's all do inventory and take a careful count of all the vials of virulent virus that could wipe out half the population on the planet. Are you freaking kidding me? Wouldn't you think that some high security germ lab would have been doing that long ago? Because I would have hoped so. Again, anyone who's never read The Stand by Stephen King, back from, I believe it was like 1978. That book scared the living crap out of me when I was a kid, and I would highly, highly recommend you read it. Because, I don't know. You know, and then put this on the tails of, what did we see a few months ago? I think just recently, they announced now that they have a new form of bird flu that they worked on in the lab that kills like 90% of all people that it infects. And, or was that the swine flu? I don't know. I know they've made swine and bird, and I think actually bird, there were 2 versions that they worked in the lab to see how deadly they could make it and then publish the results publicly. Sounds like a good idea to me. So, I did post a story yesterday. Maybe we should go through this about the type of pandemic masks that are appropriate to protect yourself. So I think that is important. I do have some N95s here. Pandemic masks. Everything you need to know. I would say, I definitely, if I were you, just seeing the way this is all happening, and now, it'll be very easy to blame swine flu outbreaks that we all need vaccinations for on the illegals coming across the border. Isn't that where they originally pinpointed when we had the swine flu scare and Barry had to declare a state of emergency and they had to let in all those untested vaccines because apparently we didn't have enough here, loaded with squalene that had never been approved in the United States, but because Barry declared a state of emergency, it was fast-tracked by the FDA and allowed into this country and injected into our children. Yes, they blamed the origination of that swine flu on an origination point in Mexico. Just saying. All right, I'm going to read this story. In the last few months, this is not me, this is the story, I've noticed that we have had a wave of possible candidates for the next great pandemic. Well, I guess it's not just me. Ebola virus. Oh, yes, and Middle East Respiratory Syndrome. That's the MERS. Now, remember, Ebola, so they say, Ebola comes from fruit bats. MERS comes from camels. I still call bullshit on that. Camels with a face mask in a glass room. We've also had drug-resistant tuberculosis. Oh, yeah, that's another good one. Influenza, whether it be swine or bird, and various other diseases that can cause large numbers of deaths in susceptible populations. Now, susceptible populations typically for any of these are the indigent, the old, the sickly, and the young. Now, the young are more resilient. And some, I'm trying to remember which one. There were one of those viruses that actually was more deadly to young people. I don't remember which one it was. Was that one of the bird flus? I believe back last year or the year before. It seemed to be affecting young people stronger than older people, and they were thinking, oh, and that actually was the other one, the super flu from 1918. That was the recent story. They just supercharged that puppy too. We've made it more deadly in the lab. Be proud of us. And this is some sick shit. Let's see if we can engineer viruses to kill every living creature. That sounds like such a bright freaking idea. Especially since, they can't even keep count of this stuff and we're finding them in the back of old storage closets. And this is just unbelievable. So anyway, like I said, what kind of pandemic mask do you want? Anyway, many of these victims will come from members of the medical community who honor their oaths to care for the sick. It stands to reason, therefore, that few medically trained individuals will be left to serve a group or community in a prolonged outbreak of contagious disease. So they're basically saying that the doctors and the first responders are going to be the ones that go down first because they will be exposed unknowingly until, obviously, they get symptoms. And because of that, in a great pandemic, we probably will have very little medical health assistance. Yes, the government will have to come save us with their vaccines. It's actually a good point that they have. The medically responsible family member should make provisions against becoming the next casualty of an epidemic or pandemic. The supplies required would be antiseptics, disinfectants, and protective gear such as masks, gloves, eye protections, etc. This article will focus on masks. And yes, I would also recommend, I don't know if I'd go as far as an NBC suit, but those Tyvek suits, those will protect you against nuclear fallout as well. They have the little hood and they got the little booties and you can duct tape them around the sleeves. I mean, they're only like $5. You never know. This is the way I look at it. For $5, if I got it stuck in a bucket somewhere and I never use it, shit, I'll use it to paint my house or something at some point in the future. You know what I mean? For $5, so you can protect yourself going outside so you don't bring any foreign organisms inside. So you disrobe, take it off in an anteroom or an antechamber before you come into your abode, if it ever got that bad. Decontamination procedures. It says, if the U.S. experienced a widespread outbreak of, say, Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome, a reasonable estimate of simple disposable masks required would be close to 3 billion of them. Hundreds of millions of advanced masks for caregivers would be needed. I'm going to tell you what, too, when swine flu was really kicking up its heels a few years back, at that time, finding masks, A, was difficult, and B, when you could, they were very expensive. You can find them right now, I would guarantee you, at a decent price. But if stuff starts to really kind of tip off and people start to get scared, just remember that those N95 masks, again, are going to be really hard to find. Doesn't hurt for $10 to get yourself 20 masks. All right, history of masks to prevent the spread of disease. Throughout history, infectious diseases have been part and parcel of the human experience. Ever since the Middle Ages, we have figured out that some infections have the capacity of passing from person to person. Medical personnel have, not unreasonably, made efforts to protect themselves from contracting the disease. In medieval times, doctors who ministered to patients suffering from the bubonic or pneumonic plague wore masks. These masks often had herbs in them, which were thought to protect the wearer from the contagion. Protective gloves, gowns, and caps made their first appearance as well. In the year 1897, masks began to be used during surgery to prevent germs residing in the medical personnel's noses and mouths from contaminating the operative field. Secondarily, the masks protected the wearer from blood splatter or other fluids from of the patient. Masks of that era were made of cloth or gauze, which unfortunately were poor barriers against microscopic germs. Even these were not always used by all members of a surgical team. Surgical masks protect patients and doctors. Medical masks are evaluated based partially on their ability to serve as a barrier to small particulates that may contain bacteria or viruses. These are tested at an airflow rate that approximates human breathing, coughing, and sneezing. As well, masks are tested for their ability to tightly fit the average human face. And yes, just know that. You definitely want one that fits you and fits it tight around your nose. And they mentioned goggles. I do have a set of goggles, and you don't want to get goggles with air holes in it. Remember, your eye is another entry point for infection. One thing you always teach your kid is don't put your fingers in your mouth. And I teach my kid, don't stick your finger in your eye unless you've washed your hands. You can get a cold or a virus through your eye. And I would be more worried about the eye because you do have a direct connect to the brain. As well, masks are tested for their ability to tightly fit the average human face. The most commonly available masks use ear loops, which I don't really like those. I have some of them too. Ear loops to fix them into place and are fabricated of quote-unquote melt-blown coated fabric, a significant upgrade over the woven cotton or gauze. Those are the freebies they give away at the doctor's office. You know, those little ones that just hook over your ears, and they're like the little paper masks. Standard medical masks have a wide range of protection based on fit and barrier. 3-ply masks, which are the most common version, are more breathable, as you can imagine, than 6-ply masks. The latter, however, present more of a barrier. The upgrade to the basic mask is the one that I've always talked about, the N95 respirator. You can even find those in Home Depot, guys. They sell those for doing insulation. They protect against particulate at typically 0.3 microns. N95 medical masks are a class of disposable quote-unquote respirators that have at least 95% efficiency against particulates larger than 0.3 microns in size. There you go. Few people understand just how tiny a micron is. Below is a comparison graphic magnified 2,000 times. It's really tiny. The N in N95 stands for non-oil resistant. There are also R95, which are oil resistant, and P95, which are oil-proof masks, mostly for industrial and agricultural use. Yeah, I haven't seen either of those. N95 masks protect against contaminants, but they are not 100% effective. Although used less frequently, N99 masks, which is 99%, and N100 masks, which is 99.7%, are also available. I haven't ever seen those either. Many masks will have a square or round exhalation valve in the middle, which helps with breathability. But none of these masks cover the eyes, which is what I was saying, so it is important to have protective eyewear in order to prevent infection. Your strategy. You will need both the standard and the N95 masks as part of your medical supplies. Those standard ones with the ear hooks, actually, I believe I found at my local drugstore. The N95s, there were some of the cheapies, were at one of the home improvement stores, and then I actually found the surgical grade online. You can find them in 50 packs pretty inexpensively. This article recommends a significant number of each, as the masks will be contaminated once worn and should be discarded. And yes, you only can wear them once. Simple truth regarding medical supplies in a pandemic: you never can have too many. Any extras you might have will be incredibly valuable barter items in times of trouble. Yes, listen to Prepper Chick. I mean, this definitely, if there was ever anything to prepare for, I'm telling you guys, this is being ramped up. And even with this quote-unquote domestic terror that now is supposedly whack-a-moling everywhere, it's all a contagion. They are setting the stage. If I put on my evil, what's the word I was looking for? I put on my evil mastermind hat and start thinking in their terms as to what would be the best way to take down the American people. You know, it's not going to be armed insurrection. It's not going to be rolling troops on the streets and having it all out, hand-to-hand, city battle like they're doing in Iraq. Look at how long that went on for, battling through these cities with insurgents. It doesn't work out too well. But if they manage to make a large majority of the population sick and dying and weak, so you'd be begging for them to come help you, that would serve twofold. That would, A, take out the vast majority of us, and B, it would make us subservient. We would be on our knees begging to them, and that is what they want. We would be asking them for the injection or for the medication to save us and our family, we would be willingly accepting being put in a quote-unquote safe zone that might protect us from any future contamination, i.e. civilian internee camp. So my criminal hat tells me that launching a contagion would be a really good plan if I were an evil government entity. Not saying, just saying. I'm going to finish the last two paragraphs here. There are no absolute standards with regards to who wears what in the sick room. I would recommend using the standard surgical mask for those who are ill to prevent droplets from coughing or sneezing, which can send air droplets several feet, and the N95 masks for the caregivers. In this fashion, you will be giving maximum protection to the medical personnel. Remember, your highest priority is to protect yourself and the healthy members in your group. Plan out a sick room area and isolate those that might be contagious. Have plenty of pandemic masks as well as gloves, aprons, eyewear, and antiseptic. And pay careful attention to every aspect of hygiene. Your survival may depend upon it. I would recommend some silver. You know, one thing that I saw that I have not done a lot of research into, but I have been meaning to, and this was a few years ago, again, when swine flu was first kicking up, that I started looking into these, are these air purifiers that use UV. Now, if anyone's ever looked into water purification, there's a bunch of ways to purify water. There's all kinds of them, natural to electronic. But there are these really neat little things called SteriPens that use ultraviolet light to kill like 99% of all protozoan and contamination in the water. And I always thought, wow, how interesting is that? And you can do solar decontamination of your water if you have a bottle, a clear bottle. I had been reading about that. You could put your water in the sun for a day or two in a clear bottle, and it will kill most of the contaminants in the water as well. I don't know if I would feel very comfortable drinking it, but I guess if it were an emergency situation and I were at my last day of 3 before I died of dehydration, I might consider it. But in regards to pandemics and clearing the air, if anyone's got any experience with those UV air purifiers, I'd love to hear about it. That actually is something, like I said, that I've been meaning to look into, and I haven't yet. You know, one thing you have to worry about is not having power, and they are electric. On the other hand, it would be, at least in my case, if I ever decided to get one, it would be one of probably 10 things that would be in my repertoire of protections. You know, Swiss Army knife it. So I don't know what else. Fish antibiotics, though I don't think that antibiotics are really going to help much. And I did see that I don't believe that they're selling fish antibiotics without a prescription anymore. For a while, you could actually get fish antibiotics, which were human grade, by the way, and in all the different flavors of antibiotics, like all of them. They used to be on Amazon. Last time I looked, they're all gone. So I don't know. Oh, wait. Somebody, I just see an ad right here. It says, we carry fish antibiotics. Hold the phone. Do they? Yes, they do. Fishmox. Holy crap, they do still. So amoxicillin, 250 milligram, 100 counts, $16.41. And this is the same company. You can go in, and I actually researched this company. It is human-grade pharmaceuticals that they're giving to fish. So I don't know, you might want to do a search. This place is called campingsurvival.com that has it. I know I saw them on Amazon at one point. The last time I looked, they didn't have it. But But amoxicillin, ampicillin, Cipro, I remember seeing, and just about anything you can imagine. And again, I would not recommend taking any of this shit. But for 15 or 16 bucks, sticking in a bucket somewhere for the day when there is no doctor and there is no medicine, and the whole world has started on fire, and my family member's dying of some infection, I might take a second look at it. If you know what I mean. We talked on Friday, Thursday, Wednesday was the last show that I did about Cipro, which is a quinolone antibiotic that causes problems with the Achilles tendon. Because I know I had that problem after taking that medication. Avalox was another one. Cipro is the one antibiotic that, in that FEMA class, we were trained for pandemics to be handing out in the event of a large anthrax event. Another thing I would recommend if you're going to do something like that is there at most drugstores I have seen up near the pharmacy, there's a little book that's called the Book of Pills, Little Blue Book of Pills or something. That's probably a good book to get. Because that will go into a bunch of different things, and it will also explain about gram-negative and gram-positive bacteria. Some antibiotics work for one, some work for another. And again, antibiotics are not something... I've been dying from the sinus infection from my dentist. Yes, blood. My dentist, he insisted that you cannot get a sinus infection from dental work, and I'm telling you, I did not have a problem before I went there the very next day. On the side of the tooth that he ground to a little nibby, I ended up getting this run over by a truck sinus thing that now has become a plague. But when I went back to get my permanent tooth put in, I did make him give me some antibiotics. So I have a prescription of amoxicillin sitting there. If I possibly can not take it, I am not. We have been over antibioticized our entire lives. And at least for me, I discovered that was a big part of my problems that I had later in life. Was that I think it had killed all my good digestive flora for many years. And now I am in decent shape. Not in perfect shape. If I wasn't doing radio, I would be back in my optimum health. But this kind of sucks a lot of my time and energy, so I can't do all the good things like work out every single day like I was. And chain smoking kind of goes along with being stuck at your desk all day, so that's not a good thing either. But I want to try and get rid of this without doing antibiotics if possible. But, there does come a point where if you can't knock it out any other way, you might have to. All right, I don't even know how I got here. This has just been a big, fat ramble today. I wanted to get back, so let me get off of this page, because I really want to get into some of the stuff that I was looking at last night. We'll do a little Jules singing. It is like Wednesday, isn't it? I'm so confused. I did say Wednesday this morning, I hope. Yeah, it is Wednesday. That's pretty unbelievable. So I don't know. What I want to go back to some of my DARPA stuff. That's where I have fun. Yeah, let's go there. Hold on one second. We're going to go to my page. My Before the First Cup page. Oh, yeah, this one was interesting. Good old General Keith Alexander, who just stepped down from the NSA Cyber Patrol. The gentleman who orchestrated all of the cyber defenses in all of the military branches. is now working for Wall Street. The top trade group on Wall Street wants the White House to assemble a, quote, cyber war council, unquote, according to a report, as America's banks continue to brace for hackers to hit their computer systems with an unprecedented attack. Remember that one? Remember Windows XP security support patches being discontinued, and whoops, 95% of all ATMs were still running Windows XP. Remember the formation of the Microsoft Cyber Patrol to combat cyber terrorism? And then I saw that they launched another one in New York City just recently as well. Well, according to Bloomberg News, reported yesterday on Tuesday that its journalists have viewed an internal document from the Securities Industry and Financial Market Association, more affectionately known as SIMFA, calling for the United States government to create a council, quote, to stave off terrorist attacks that could trigger financial panic by temporarily wiping out account balances by way of a cyber attack previously unseen on U.S. servers. Wow, haven't we talked about this a million times before? I believe we have. And I thought they kind of gave up on that one. But I guess good old Keith has a lot of free time on his hands. So now they got to find a way to put him back in the seat again. He's from Syracuse, by the way, too. It says, quote, we are concerned that the industry may not have the capabilities that we would like to effectively defend against this newer form of potential attack. The capability that we would like to stop such an attack once commenced from spreading to other financial institutions. Oh, wait, are they going to call it a contagion? Or the capability we would like to effectively recovering if an initial attack is followed by waves of follow-on attacks. This is Doherty. He must be the Bloomberg journalist. Yes, is quoting from a document dated June 27th. Such an attack, SIMFA suggests, could occur, quote, in the near medium term, unquote, resulting in, quote, account balances and books and records being converted to zeros, unquote, and be, quote, difficult and slow to recover from, unquote. Holy shit, guys. They are going to pull the plug, aren't they? The systematic consequences could well be devastating for the economy, as the resulting loss of confidence in the security of individual and corporate savings and assets could trigger widespread runs on financial institutions that likely would extend well beyond the directly impacted banks, security firms, and asset managers, the document reads. In order to counter such a strike, SIMFA has reportedly suggested that government officers from the likes of the Treasury Department, the National Security Agency, and the Department of Homeland Security, oh, here we go, join forces with Wall Street in preparation. Already, Doherty reports, SIMFA, oh, listen to who we pulled out of the closet here. SIMFA has retained General Keith Alexander, the recently retired head of the NSA, as well as Michael Chertoff, the former director of the Department of Homeland Security. He was also the granddaddy of those naked scanners that his company sold. Recently, it was reported that Alexander was requesting $1 million a month to provide consulting services in his post-NSA career. Wow, what a lucrative job he has managed to set up and create for himself, since he was the one that created the cyber patrols that they are then masking as foreign and domestic cyber terror groups. Wow, Keith. You have won up just about every other crooked mother out there. $1 million a month. Nothing like sucking Wall Street dry. Again, this is going to come on the shoulders of you and me. Man, they really are just selling all the fixtures out the back door, aren't they? $1 million a month. A spokesperson for SIMFA declined to comment to Bloomberg about the document, which the news agency failed to publish with this week's report, but did say that the Wall Street Group, quote, is doing everything possible to help the industry prepare for and defend against cyber attacks, unquote. Another letter signed recently by SIMFA was published to the web this week, however, and reveals that the trade group is officially endorsing a cybersecurity bill slated to be discussed by the U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee on Tuesday, which was yesterday. And this is what we need to be paying attention to, and I have another story on this. The potential legislation, more affectionately known as the Cybersecurity Information Sharing Act, or CISA, another one of those acronyms, CISA, PISA, CISPA, MISPA. This one is CISA, C-I-S-A. Quote, further strengthens the ability of the private sector and the federal government to work together to develop a more effective information sharing framework to respond to cyber threats, reads the letter from Monday, this week signed by SIMPA President and CEO Kenneth E. Benson Jr., as well as the Financial Services Roundtable and the American Bankers Association. The threat of cyber attacks is a clear present danger to our industry and other critical infrastructure providers that we and the nation as a whole rely upon, reads the letter. Privacy advocates are largely opposed to that act, however, and have said that codifying a program to share digital data between the private and the public sector would put sensitive information pertaining to millions of Americans at risk. Now, guys, this was the whole gist behind the Microsoft Cyber Patrol Center. And the fact that they then went on to say, hey, guess what, private industry? You do not have the skills with a Z to fight against these terrorists. So you need government in your back end. You need government to take care of you. And guess what? You need to put all of your data in the cloud. Because without all your data in the cloud, we won't be able to surveil to protect you. Now we're going to read a little bit about this CISA, who, when I click on the story, I see a big, ugly picture of Dianne Feinstein. Here, actually, before I leave here, let me drop you guys that SIMFA story I just read. Because apparently only one person on my Before the First Cup page found it even stimulating enough to open and read. I think it's pretty damn important. All right, Senate committee passes. So they did pass it. Senate committee passes CISA cybersecurity bill that broadens the NSA's powers. Now, how interesting is that? Considering that there were members of Congress out there that were trying to pass some bills that would rein in the NSA trolling in keeping of every, and I mean, I just read something the other day. They actually have been instructed to troll and keep every single piece of information about anybody, anywhere, anytime, ever, for future use. So, right on the heels of Congress trying to protect us They totally screw us in the back end. New cybersecurity legislation cleared the Senate Intelligence Committee on Tuesday during a closed session, of course. Critics fear it may broaden the NSA's already formidable access to Americans' data. Written by Senate Intelligence Chair Dianne Feinstein, Democrat of California, and Senator Saxby Chambliss, Republican, Georgia. CISA, or the Cybersecurity Information Sharing Act, is widely seen as a redux of last year's CISPA bill, which was widely protested online by privacy watchdogs and ultimately defeated in Congress. Well, they had to ramp up the fear to like the nth levels and get all of these cyber patrols in place before they could launch this one. I have a feeling that this one is not going to get defeated. That's just my personal opinion, but they are really beating the drums on all this stuff. A draft of the bill circulated in June granted permission by government agencies to retain and share data for, quote, a cybersecurity purpose, unquote, which was defined as the purpose of protecting an information system or information that is stored on, processed by, or transmitting an information system from a cybersecurity threat or security vulnerability. According to The Guardian, that language would likely lead the NSA to stockpile weaknesses in digital security, like they aren't already doing that. I had read a couple stories about some of the NSA and other alphabet agency spyware that had already been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that they were using, and they were using the back-end Microsoft Windows alerts, like if something crashes, let's say, and you get a little Windows alert saying that this program shut down unexpectedly, can we send Microsoft this message to alert them of what happened, that actually that little Microsoft window that pops up that you were sending there was sending them all the vulnerabilities on your machine. It was sending them your IP address and all the holes that you have that are unpatched, which then made you a great and easy target for them to probe you or install whatever the hell they'd like. The legislation was approved by the committee by a vote of 12-3, and it would allow private firms to share information regarding cyber attacks in real time. It also would shield those firms from lawsuits by individuals against those companies for sharing data with each other and with the U.S. government, regardless of the terms of service contract that may prevent such actions without customers' consent. According to the American Civil Liberties Union, which is joined by like-minded watchdogs such as the Electronic Frontier Foundation in panning CISA, the legislation's catch-all provisions would seem to allow the collection of the content of communications rather just the malicious code. That is one of our biggest concerns, says Gabriel Rotterman, an attorney with the ACLU. So this is going to allow them, it's just metadata. No, it's going to be your content as well. So, hey, another way to cover their ass for stealing your communications. Well, look, we got this bill. You could have been a victim to a cyber attack, so it's for your own good. CISA now heads to the full Senate for a vote, though it faces the hurdle of a shortened legislative calendar, as well as mounting opposition by the same groups that prevented the passage of the similar legislation over the past 2 years. Oh, please. CISA cannot go through. Again, these people are going to keep just trying at this over and over again. I mean, not that if CISA doesn't go through, that does not mean that they are not going through and taking as much of your data as they want, because we know that they are doing that already. But this is going to pull the corporations into the fold, any of those that were still on the fence as to whether or not giving up customer data or bending over and spreading them wide for the government was a good idea. Well, now we've scared the living pants off of them. They are so afraid now that they're going to get hacked. And the only way to stay safe is to give us access to everything you have. And guess what? Just like they did with the phone companies in the past, we're covering your ass. So you have no legal liability whatsoever because we're the government. That's great. And here's the story that I found the other day. Your baby photos and your resumes. Hey, the NSA already has them.
If you want to pass your resume to the NSA, well, they actually may have it already because resumes are among the personal items intercepted by the government, supposedly in the fight against terrorists, according to a story in today's Washington Post. Now, the Post is reporting it is privy to 160,000 intercepted transmissions provided by whistleblower Edward Snowden. And according to the Post, the vast majority of intercepts involve people not at all considered as targets of any investigation. Laurie Siegel is back with us, our tech correspondent in studio. And so, if the NSA is trying to catch the big fish, the big terrorists, as it were, are these just the inadvertent, minnows caught in the net, so to speak?
Interesting minnows, I will say. And if you look at it, it seems as though what we learned from this report is the NSA might have cast a wider net than we thought. And of course, a lot of the information that they did get was very valuable to national intelligence, but it's the other information they also got that has people, a little bit up in arms.
Some of the information.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about 90% of the information they did get wasn't necessarily their target. And let me get into what the information was. We're talking baby photos, like toddlers in bathtubs, fitness selfies, women posing in bikinis, medical records, resumes, academic transcripts of school children, all in this wide net. So, I think people understand that there's a responsibility here and that the NSA has a job to do. But other people are a bit alarmed and they say, hey, look, if you see that our information isn't relevant, get rid of it. The NSA has publicly said that it's very difficult for them to just get rid of this information. It's oftentimes stored in the system. The reason is one analyst might not know if it's relevant to another analyst.
So with all this new information coming out in dribs and drabs, and at times much bigger than that, from Edward Snowden, I'm curious if Americans are taking more steps to protect themselves.
I want to stop for 1 second. She had talked about irrelevant information. There was a story probably about a month ago that I had mentioned where it said that the NSA had come out and said that they can't get rid of that information because their system's too complicated. Do you remember that? So we'll just keep it. We're going to take it all and we're keeping it because, we don't understand even how to get rid of it. But there was also a story from a few months back. It was in the European intelligence, and I don't know if it was MI6 or some other undercover government entity, but it was one of their NSA-esque group over there who were throwing surveillance nets out. And what they discovered is that they were getting all kinds of nudies. I mean, the majority of the photos, they were running, I think it was some sort of facial recognition software that they were trying to run, and they were getting lots of naked people. So it was pretty funny. And yeah, I bet they're saving all those too for Mr. Grossy scumbag sitting in a little room all by himself with dribbles of Big Mac on his shirt to enjoy in his leisure time on the taxpayer dime. All right, here we go.
I think they are, and I think there's this push towards awareness and privacy. And I've covered startups for a while, and it used to be, what's the hot new app? Is it location? Is it social networking? And now I'm getting all these pitches for encryption apps and, apps to protect yourself and protect your communications. One app is called Wicker, and it's very extreme. The founder, her name is Nico Sell, and she's a hacker herself. And I talked to her, and I asked her, I said, what did the Snowden revelations do to the market? Listen to what she said.
I think it was the best thing that's ever happened to society. I still don't think we're paranoid enough, right? To me, the NSA is just the tip of the iceberg, and I'm glad we all know about it right now because we've opened our eyes a little bit. But a greater threat to me and my friends and family really are the data brokers out there that are selling lists of erectile sufferers and rape victims for 7 cents a piece. So I think we've started to open our eyes, and the world is a lot better place, and that's going to help us all.
And you might notice that she's wearing sunglasses.
I did
and
notice
she
that.
says it's because of facial recognition. She's very paranoid. That being said, she's very well respected in the hacker community, and her app is legit. Funded $30 million recently by, get this, the lead investor in Facebook. So if that doesn't say anything, I don't know what does.
She says we're not paranoid enough.
Yeah, that's a little disturbing. I don't know about that app. I'll have to look into that, but the fact that it's being financed by the lead investor in Facebook would make me a little suspect. I'm going to drop you that link. They did bring up a good point, and that was about the data brokers, and that's something that we really haven't talked about, but we should. Just so you know, they are selling your info. And here, what do the data brokers really know about us? Posted 2 days ago, Pigmine5, not one freaking view. Are you kidding? Not one person. Oh, wait. Here, 17 once I get in here.
Post-Edward Snowden, has the conversation changed? Are more people aware now in the last year of not just the NSA and the data that they're gathering, but all the data about them that exists?
Yeah, I think people are more aware. It still surprises me, though, how much people are not aware. So it's not just the NSA. All these companies, or even when you go to a shopping mall, they might be setting up these little Wi-Fi sniffers that sort of ping your phone to see who's walking by, right? The ubiquity of surveillance is really hard for people to grasp.
In the investigations you've done, there's tons of research being done about us and data being generated. What are the ways that our data is being used by companies in ways that we don't know about?
I mean, it ranges all the way from totally innocuous to really creepy. And one thing I like to point out is that, something that seems really innocuous, like online ad tracking, the ads follow you around from site to site. They're tailored to your interests. Even that can be disturbing in the wrong context. So one story I tell in my book is about a woman who was not out to her colleagues about her sexual orientation, but when they saw her looking at her computer screen and every single ad was for gay and lesbian cruises, suddenly she was outed, right? So even the practice of data gathering can have strange impacts that are hard to predict.
Do we as consumers...
Wait, I want to stop for 1 second. I'm going to tell you it's actually been going on for a while, but yeah, you have those people that always complain that, and this is the old days, why am I getting these porn emails? And my response always has been, stop going to the porn sites. Because I'll tell you what, you only get porn emails if you visit porn. And now more so. You go to porn sites, you're going to be getting porn ads everywhere. So that's kind of funny. Not really, but it is.
Have rights to look at the data that a commercial company might have on us and then dispute that if that's wrong?
No, we don't have that right. So we're one of the only Western nations that doesn't have a law that allows us to see the data that commercial data gatherers have. So most countries don't let you see the information that intelligence agencies have, obviously. But commercial data gatherers in most countries, in Canada and Europe and the UK, you can go to them and say, show me the information. And if it's wrong, you can correct it or ask for a correction, and there's sort of a dispute process. But we don't have that here. So I tried to find where my data was. I identified 200 data brokers, and I was only able to see my files at 13 of them.
Wow. Of those 13, were they all accurate?
No, so that's the other thing is the 13, there were probably about 5 or 6 that were very accurate. They were addresses of everywhere I'd ever lived. They had, even one of them had the number in my dorm room in college, which I had forgotten, and every phone number and my relatives and all sorts of things. They were very accurate. Then there was another category, though, of people who basically pegged me because I live in Harlem, in Manhattan, as a low-income single mother with very low education levels, and that's not true.
And is this data being protected, or is private information about us being traded all around us?
Oh, our private information is being traded all around us. I mean, sadly, it's become a commodity. So the data brokers, for instance, buy and sell from each other all the time, and trade information. So if one of them has maybe your voting files, but the other one has maybe your hunting license, they might buy and trade that information. And similarly, the people who track you online on ads that follow you around from site to site, they also trade information about you on actual markets, like the New York Stock Exchange. They're actually instant millisecond level transactions. So when you arrive at a website, a little signal goes out to the auction, oh, this person has arrived, who wants to bid on him? There's like a bidding in milliseconds, and then you get the ad for the person who bid the most.
So what's our recourse? I mean, with credit reports, if we get a bad one, technically there's a way for us to challenge it or find the information.
Right.
But that's in a very specific silo.
Right.
You're talking about information, everything from our healthcare data to our shopping history.
Healthcare, yep.
Right. I mean, I don't know that I have the perfect solution, but I would say that credit reports are a good starting place, because the two things that we are given rights over with our credit reports is we get to see them and we get to dispute them. And that has been the baseline for the privacy laws in other countries that I was mentioning, that give people the right to see the data about them and dispute it. And if that data is being used to make a decision of any significance, I feel like the very minimum that I want is to see it and dispute it. And so that's what the FTC and Obama administration have both called for, actually, legislation, which would allow that, which is basically, they call it the Privacy Bill of Rights. But there's been no action in Congress on that.
And there probably never will be.
Thank you.
And there's so much money to be made in your personal data. And again, we saw a couple days back, well, it's probably more than a couple days back, but there was a story from maybe a week or two ago in regards to that North Carolina health insurance company that was already using end-user purchase data for cigarettes, for alcohol, for junk food, whatever. They were correlating your purchase data with your medical records and then using that to make phone calls, encouraging you to get healthier, or, encouraging you to get on a smoking cessation program, or encouraging you to watch your diabetes, your sugar levels, because they saw you bought ice cream. I mean, that is going to be our future. And you heard her saying that they're tracking your site visits. People are bidding on your viewership for ads, so maybe you visit a lot of prepper sites. Well, all the prepper commercial entities out there be paying big bucks for you to see their ad. This is pretty sick shit. They have taken everything that at some point in the past we had assumed was just generic, public, unidentifiable data, and they have now made it all identifiable, putting it into a database that now not only are the government entities using to surveil and profile you, but they're giving it away to the highest bidder. And I mean, she's like, oh yeah, start with the credit companies. I think the cat's way out of the bag on all this. There really isn't much else you could do short of trying to erase yourself. And I mean, you need to be pretty technically savvy to be able to do that. I have a few friends who have gone out of their way to remove as much as they could about themselves online. But I got to tell you, if you use any type of electronic, like purchase medium, let's say, you're never going to get off grid. If you have a job and are paid via your Social Security number, you're not going to get off a grid. If you have to register your car, if you have a utility bill, if you buy groceries with a card that is tied to your name, all of that data is being collected and correlated to you. She had even said about your relatives. I mean, there are sites out there that are based upon data broker info, like that Spokio, I think it's called. There's a whole bunch of them. But yeah, I mean, they have addresses, names, friends, someone who might have lived with you for 6 months, when they were hard on their luck, sleeping on your couch. I mean, it's just crazy the amount of information that they have. And don't think, that's why that clip that we heard before where the woman said that the lead investor in Facebook is going to be helping invest into security to stop them from tracking you, I'm going to call bullshit, because it almost seems to me like that would be playing both sides of the fence. Facebook is one of the biggest tracking tools on the planet, and now we find out that Facebook is being used by the Pentagon as well as all these universities for these social experiments to manipulate our emotions, to track how social contagions form. I mean, this is all just crazy. Now, over the weekend, I normally don't watch any television. I mean, short of maybe an hour after dinner. And not, I mean, in the summertime, I usually don't even do that. That's just in the winter. But this weekend, we had a couple rainy days in the afternoon. And so I was flipping through, and my formerly favorite cable channel, Sci-Fi Channel, was playing a a movie that was called, I'm trying to remember, Iborg, I think it was. And what caught my attention as I was flipping through is that these Iborgs looked like little eyeballs with legs, and they were robots, and they were running around. And then the guy who was playing the quote-unquote president was shown as being on TV. People were protesting outside of where he was having his speech, and he was trying to convince them how this wasn't a loss of liberties. It was a gain in protection from all of the terrorist attacks that were occurring, and that these little robot eyeball thingies were going to keep us safe. And I was like, oh, I need to watch this. Somebody at this homemade sci-fi movie, because it was like one of their sci-fi movies that they make, somebody's got a pulse on what's going on. So I did. I watched the whole thing, and it was horrifying. It was like DARPA bots on steroids, and not only that, but guess what? We looked at some of that new 3D virtual reality software where they're doing these holograms and shit for people. Well, guess what? The president wasn't even real. He probably had been killed years ago. He was just a hologram. And all of these speeches that he was giving weren't even real. They were generated by the machine. It was the machine that was in charge. And guys, that, even though it was a sci-fi exclusive, I got to tell you, it's not too far off, as they are giving these robotics firms life and money to develop smarter and smarter bots that are unmanned, that make their own decisions, that have artificial intelligence, that decide who lives, who dies using facial recognition software and determining whether or not you're on the kill list. I would be concerned. I would be very concerned. I mean, I don't see that dystopian future as too far out of whack, personally. There was one other thing. Let me just scroll down. I don't know. When I'm gone for 6 days, there's just too much information to deal with. But let me see if I can find that story that... La, 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 la. Oh, yeah, and then, of course, don't forget the Brain Project. Here we go. What caught my attention was the title of this article, because I've talked before about how Battlestar Galactica and the Cylons, and remember, there were the original Cylons that were the toasters that looked a lot like the DARPA bot Atlas, but then there were the second-generation Cylons that kept reincarnating even if they were destroyed, that looked like humans with synthetic skin and organs, and they are working on that pretty furiously right now. I mean, you can 3D print organs, no problem. They have touching and feeling skin. We have all these mind-controlled appendages. Don't think it's going to be too long before they start slicking these on a bot and giving them some sort of intelligence and consciousness. I also saw a story came out a few days ago that scientists believe that they have found a way to turn consciousness off. So if they can turn consciousness off, I bet they have a way to turn consciousness on. Yes, activist post. Mind-controlled scientists claim ability to turn off consciousness. This is going to be the ability to make machines self-aware, I believe. We only have about 2 minutes left, so I'm probably not going to be able to get through all this, but I did want to read the short story from July 5th. This is from some guy's personal blog, but he happens to be an industrial analyst for global security. It is titled, Battlestar Google, How is DARPA supposed to build its Cylons if Google is buying all of its contractors? In my role as a non-resident senior fellow at the Atlantic Council, I maintain the blog The Defense Industrialists, as I have received quite a few comments from readers over there about my recent essay. I thought I would post it here for any of you who may have missed it. Shaft and Boston Dynamics are two of the robotics companies that recently took first and second place in the penultimate round of the DARPA Robotics Challenge. Both were bought by Google last December, with an announcement from the new parent company late last month that both are now out of the Google competition. Google is swearing off any further cooperation with the U.S. Defense Department in robotics. What? That's what got me. Google is now swearing off any cooperation with the DoD. One can imagine at least 3 possibilities for the ultimate reason behind the sweeping decision. 1, we're building our own droid army, thank you. Google has some grand projects at work, but for a company with the motto, don't be evil, which I mentioned that before, this is unlikely. Number 2, we're saving the world from Skynet. Graham Templeton has argued that at Extreme Tech that this is the very motive behind the move, as there will now be no need for a butlerian jihad. Everybody wins more modestly, as Nick Prime argued in The Kings of War. Google's move could represent the beginning of another Vietnam moment in Silicon Valley, spurred by the Snowden revelations. But either approach to this answer is wholly unsatisfactory. While Google has broadened their horizons and their noble intentions, the company just isn't as Masonic as an Elon Musk enterprise. And number 3, all of your robots belong to us now. Rather, I suspect that Google is simply saying that it needs to amass a certain scale and scope in robotics research to achieve its goals, and that it has the money to do what it wants without asking Uncle Sam. This is, after all, more or less Google's official explanation of its decision, and Shaft and Boston Dynamics and self-driving cars are not all that Google has been doing. Alongside the story of the Shaft and Boston Dynamics acquisition in December, the New York Times reported that Google has bought another 6 robotic companies in the various subfields of industrial perception for loading and unloading trucks, Mecha in humanoid robots and robotic arms, Redwood Robotics, a joint venture in the same field amongst Mecha, SRI, and Willow Garage, Bot and Dolly, which is a robotic camera system, Autofuss, which is in advertising and designing of synthetic environments, and Holomini, which is in omnidirectional wheels. I'm going to run out of time here. But guys, don't forget, they are also part of the Brain Project. They also have Kurzweil at the helm as their director of engineering, and they have Regina Duggan, former director of DARPA, as part of their smart technology division. All right, guys, here comes the music. We're going to have to continue this tomorrow. Everybody have a happy Wednesday. Thank you for hanging out with me today. And I catch you later. Everybody take care.